Good evening, Lois Truman.
Hello.
How are you?
If it gets any better, I can't stand it.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us on this segment of Conversations with Women during International Women's History Month, as you know.
Well, what they say about that is women who behave rarely make history. So I hope to make history.
I think you already have, because you're one of my top 5 heroines of my entire life.
My goodness.
So, and if people don't know you, what you ought to know about Lois is that she looks fantastic in hats. And typically you'll see her in photographs in this hat.
I don't have one on.
That hat or the other hat. So we're going to talk about some hats that you've worn in your lifetime. Let's go back to your early years and tell us a few hats you wore, perhaps in your younger years or young adult.
Okay, well, my parents were missionaries, so I lived some of my early years in the Middle East. And there, it's very common for the women to have head coverings or their hair covered. So, but my main reason that I started really wearing hats all the time, and I would have over 100 hats, and a lot of those people gave to me. But when we came back from overseas, I was 15 and I was diagnosed with lupus. And so we had to just put all kinds of, well, let me just say it this way. In those days, they didn't know very much about lupus. So I was very experimental, and they did injections into my scalp where I was losing hair, which I did eventually lose all my hair, which I've done twice with lupus. And so my mom had gotten me some wigs to wear, and wigs are awful. I don't know if you've ever had.
Amen. I can't do them.
So I just started going with hats. And when I did, then that was that kind of started it, and people started giving me hats. And I would just wear them, and that would be, finally it became known I was the hat lady. So
your trademark, it was your trademark.
Yes, it was. And so the crazier the hat, people would see it and say, oh, that's for Lois. Oh, yes, let her wear that hat. And so out of honor and respect for them, out of greatest respect, I would wear some crazy hats. And so there are pictures of me in every kind of hat you could imagine. Ironically, now I'm going to jump ahead and then I'll come back, but this is on this topic. I had an opportunity to go to Dubai and teach in Dubai at a conservative Islamic university. And at that time, in order to be on the staff, I had to wear the abaya, which some people call a burqa, or, the head covering, the hijab. And so I wore that every day to work, to teach in the university and to set up their education program. So that was probably the most ironic hat that I had ever worn to me. So then my husband was in the military. He came in as an Army chaplain, and he was the first Army chaplain in our particular denomination to come on active duty as a military chaplain. And I knew nothing about it. He had served in Vietnam, which I knew nothing about really. And he came back, we got married, we had 3 children, and then we started a church a year after we were married. And after 7 years, he said the Lord had called him to this. They made an appeal for a chaplain. He met all the qualifications. He had the education requirement, the experience, everything. When our first assignment was Fort Benning, Georgia. Now, I am telling you, I don't ever remember being on an Army base, a military base or post or anything. I knew nothing about this, but it was the most exciting adventure ever. And we just, every 3 to 4 years, we relocated either to a new country, definitely a new state, just pack up, move, go. And our 3 kids just absolutely loved it. And when we were in Germany, they cried for a year after we came back to the States. They wanted to go back to Germany. They like,
Wow.
so, and so what I'm doing now is I'm taking advantage of all of these life experiences that I've had. And I first got my bachelor's degree before I was married for elementary education. Then while we were at Fort Benning, our 3 kids were all little. My husband was out in the field with the troops a lot. Anybody could have said, this is not the time to do this, but it was the time for me to get my master's in guidance and psych services in education through Georgia State University. And then we went overseas to Germany. That I got a job as a counselor in the Army Education Center because of my degree and experience. And then we came back and were assigned a few other places. And while we were in upstate New York, I decided I needed to get my doctorate. And Gary was gone for 1 year on an unassigned. He went to 800 miles south of Hawaii. So I was home with 2.
He's gone a whole year?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Unaccompanied tour. Yes. So I was in upstate New York. I was working for the government as a child care program director. And then I decided if I'm going to get my doctorate, I've got to find out. I was equal distance between Cornell and Syracuse University. So I applied to both of them, and I decided whichever one would accept me and let me have the most condensed way that I could do this. Now, I started these postgraduate courses. I took 5 courses the first semester.
Oh my God.
For my doctorate. It was insane. I was
Were you in your 50s?
at sea. I was born in 46, 56, 66, 76, 86. Yes, I was right at 50. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So you jumped in.
I jumped in. I started of course, I was the oldest one in my classes, by the way. And I started taking these, just maddeningly taking these courses. And I would spend the night a lot of times in Syracuse with a friend, a Korean friend. And then I would call our 2 high school kids back at home and say, guys, I'm not going to be home tonight. No problem, Mom, we've got it. Well, you know, you think about that. Thank God we had good kids, because that could have been a disaster. And so, and Jane, our oldest, was teaching in Honolulu, Hawaii at that time. She'd gotten her first job there. And so it was a blur. All I did was just focused on, I just had to keep going. I knew I had to get those courses under my belt before he would get his year up and we would be reassigned to God knows where. So it was nuts. I just did solid coursework all the way through and got my doctorate in child and family studies. And that was probably one of the most difficult challenge I have ever done in my life. But God helped me do it. So, and it's because of that, because of having that doctorate, that I was able to literally fall into this job in Dubai, which was fantastic. We were there for 2 years, and it was just a remarkable experience to get to go and create the whole program, the whole education program, and then find out they would turn around and hire me to then implement it. I mean, you
Wow.
don't get that in a lifetime very often.
You earned it. You earned it.
Yes. So now that I am supposed to be retired, I retired a year ago from teaching online for 20 years, early childhood courses for Ivy Tech, excuse me, Community College in Indiana. And I volunteer in the schools, in a variety of things. In the community, I volunteer. And then the most rewarding thing that I volunteer is for now teaching immigrants and refugees how to get their citizenship and to learn English to pass that horrific citizenship test that I wish every student in the US would have to pass before they could graduate. But that's been rewarding. And because I speak Arabic, or because I'm familiar with so much with Islam, they give me those students that are from the Middle East or Bosnia. Even though Bosnians don't speak Arabic, they do know they are mostly Muslim. So that's what I've been doing until COVID hit, and then that all kind of is on hold. So I'm just having fun. Like this week, I finished painting our kitchen a new color and doing some caulking around last night, and just having fun.
What an inspiration. I need to go back and watch this so I can listen to all you've accomplished. Gracious, I didn't realize all of the pieces until you put them together. Well, in closing, maybe do you have one life lesson that you learned from your dear mother that sticks with you? I'm sure you have many, but what is something that you always think of your mother when?
What comes to mind right now when you said that straight off the top of my head is love people. Just love people. I don't care what they look like, what language they speak, what religion or not religion they are. None of that matters. Love that person. And that has been my motto. That's why I've not been afraid, I think, anywhere I've ever landed around the world. I have no fear, because I think people's is people's is people's. We all have so much commonality in the human race. And I wish that we all could somehow respect another human being to the degree that we would want to be respected. So that was something very strongly put in me from my mother from an early age.
And you put it to the test, and you're a beautiful example of it, you and your family. I'm so honored to know you. Thank you for joining us for this conversation, and maybe we can do a follow-up one sometime soon.
Okay, well, I love you, Rhonda, and thank you so much. I feel very honored to be selected to do this. So
I love you, and we'll talk to you soon.
all righty, bye-bye.
Bye.